South China Morning Post, 7th of April 2024. In frank and productive talks, Janet Yellen tells Li Qiang that China and the US shouldn't shy away from tough conversations. Chinese official policy is to make promises and fulfill its desires, which has destroyed confidence in China's commitments. During talks with US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen in Beijing on Sunday, Chinese Premier Li Qiang urged Washington to take an objective stance on industrial capacity rather than politicize economic issues. According to the official news agency Xinhua, Li stated, "The United States should look at the capacity issue objectively and dialectically from the point of view of the market economy and a global perspective based on economic laws." I made these remarks in response to Yellen, who is now visiting China for 5 days, raising concerns about the nation's industrial overcapacity. Yellen stated that excessive exports from China, particularly in solar modules and new energy vehicles, might undermine U.S. interests and have global spillovers. Li stated, "The growth of China's new energy sector will significantly contribute to the global shift toward a low-carbon, green economy. We hope that the US and China can cooperate in upholding the fundamental norms of a market economy, such as open cooperation and fair competition, without politicizing trade and economic issues or exaggerating the meaning of national security," Li stated. Before the meeting, Yellen stated that the two nations should have tough conversations to resolve their issues. The U.S. Treasury Department characterized the discussions as frank and productive. It stated, "The Secretary shared her views on the objective of a healthy economic relationship that creates equal opportunities for businesses and workers in both the U.S. and China." According to the department, Yellen expressed concerns about China's industrial overcapacity while highlighting the value of cooperation in addressing global issues, including debt relief for less developed nations. Before meeting with Li, Yellen declared, "As the two largest economies in the world, we have a duty to our own countries and the world to manage our complex relationship responsibly and to cooperate and show leadership in addressing pressing global challenges. Even while there is still work to be done, I think that in the last year, we have established a more solid foundation for our bilateral relationship. This hasn't meant putting up with our disagreements or avoiding difficult talks. It has meant realizing that straight and honest communication between us is the only way to move forward," she continued. Days after a phone conversation between U.S. Vice President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping, who tried to calm tensions over economic and technological issues, Yellen made her second trip to China since last July. Xi cautioned that risks were associated with the endless stream of measures placed on China during the call. Li informed Yellen that bolstering trade and economic cooperation was critical to the growth of the global economy in both countries. He hoped both parties would improve communication and resolve disagreements to ensure that China-US economic and trade cooperation is stable, smooth, and efficient. Li stated that China is prepared to increase policy coordination with the US on matters like climate change. He continued, saying, "China hopes the two countries can be partners, not adversaries." Following 2 days of discussions in the southern industrial hub of Guangzhou, China, between Yellen and Vice Premier Li Qiang, they decided to hold intensive exchanges to address economic and financial concerns and those relating to overcapacity. In Guangzhou, Yellen warned that excessive exports from China may harm U.S. interests and cause global spillovers. Meanwhile, Beijing said that it had fully addressed the production capacity issue and voiced serious concerns regarding trade restrictions imposed by the U.S. on China. During a significant economic conference in December, Beijing warned about the risks of Chinese overcapacity in specific sectors as a potential drag on the economic recovery. Last year, blockbuster exports of new energy goods brought attention to the problem and raised fears in the US and EU that China's supremacy may drive out and ruin their domestic sectors. In a massive blow to bilateral relations, the European Union has launched an anti-subsidy probe into Chinese electric vehicles and is expected to apply punitive tariffs. Analysts and economists have cautioned against allying to exert pressure on Beijing. According to Xinhua, a Beijing-based specialist on U.S.-China relations, the Western countries, to a large extent, have reached consensus to impose increasingly stringent restrictions on Chinese green energy technology and products, and they have gradually unveiled specific measures. It significantly increases the trade and technology constraints associated with the American small yard, high fence trend, which is unlikely to change. According to Xi, it seems improbable that China will alter its priorities on technical and economic advancement in the meantime. Yellen stressed the value of communication between the two nations when she visited with academics and students at Peking University's National School of Development on Sunday afternoon. U.S. Treasury Department spokesperson Janet Yellen stated before a roundtable discussion with professors that deepening our communication has been critical as the United States and China have worked to put our economic relationship on a surer footing. She added that the Economic and Financial Working Groups, a forum for the two nations to address economic and financial policy issues, have convened regularly since their establishment last autumn and that she had frequent talks with senior officials of the Chinese government. Thinking back to her academic career, Yellen claimed that her exposure to novel concepts had helped her later in life when she worked as a government official and policymaker who emphasized a pragmatic solution to complex issues.